Welcome to Luton Fresh Steps, a project focusing on obesity. I'm Dr. Dissanayake, a GP at Bute House Medical Center in Luton. Luton Fresh Steps has been made possible through the collaboration of our partners, Luton Borough Council, Bute House Medical Center, Equality Primary Care Network, and K2 Smart Life. We recently delivered a virtual webinar exploring obesity and its link with diet. This video has been created as a supplement to that session, offering additional explanation and guidance to help reinforce those key messages. So let's take a deep dive into what healthy weight really means, what ultra-processed food is, what real food looks like, and the practical next steps you can take. Before we begin, please note that this session is for education and sharing ideas about living a healthy lifestyle. It does not replace one-to-one discussion with your clinician at the GP surgery. So let's take a moment to understand how big this issue really is. Look at this number. 63.4% of adults in Luton are estimated to be living with overweight or obesity. This is nearly 2 out of every 3 people. This isn't a small or isolated problem. Figures across England show a similar picture. It's a major public health reality affecting many of us. Why are we gaining excess weight? We are gaining excess weight largely because of poor quality food, a sedentary lifestyle, and stress. And addressing these factors is key to achieving a healthy weight. So, let's start by understanding what we mean by healthy weight. Weight needs to be considered in relation to the height. And one common way of doing this is by using body mass index, or BMI. This is calculated by dividing the weight in kilograms by the square of the height in meters. If you look closely at this chart, you can see that the healthy BMI range for Caucasians is different from the range for other ethnic groups. Waist circumference is another measure that gives us an idea of healthy weight. The table shows the desirable and high-risk measurements for men and women, as well as the waist-to-height ratio for both. Now, waist-to-height ratio is often considered better because it looks at where fat is stored, not just how much you weigh. There are 2 main types of body fat: subcutaneous fat, which is stored just underneath the skin, and visceral fat, which is stored in and around the vital organs, such as liver, kidneys, abdomen, and heart. People of non-Caucasian ethnic backgrounds are more likely to store fat as visceral fat, which carries a higher health risk. This is why the healthy BMI range for these groups is set lower. The weight problem is so much more than just a number you see on the bathroom scale. It has these really profound and often visible effects on our health down the line. And when you look at it like this, you realize the stakes are just incredibly high. A staggering 90% of new type 2 diabetes cases are linked to excess weight. But it doesn't stop there. We are also talking about a higher risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, and fatty liver, and even certain cancers such as breast and bowel. It's also linked to really disruptive things like sleep apnea, fertility issues, and the chronic daily pain of osteoarthritis. This is why obesity is so important. It's not just about how we look, it's about protecting our future health. But this is where it gets kind of strange. The weight problem is there not because people aren't trying. Almost half of all adults are actively trying to lose weight. So if so many of us are trying so hard, what's going on? What are we missing? And yes, that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Why do so many diets seem doomed to fail? Well, I can tell you the answer is a lot more complicated than the old saying, just eat less and move more. We've got to look deeper into the actual biology of how our bodies are wired to work. We have to look at something called metabolism. Metabolism is the process by which the body converts food into energy to fuel all its functions. Okay, to really get to the bottom of weight gain, we have to talk about this very powerful hormone that most diets completely ignore: insulin. You can think of it as the secret hidden switch that controls your body's entire energy system. What exactly is insulin? The simplest way to think of it is as a key. When you eat, your body breaks down carbohydrates into glucose, which is a type of sugar, and your body's main source of energy. Insulin acts like a key that helps move that glucose from your bloodstream into your cells, where it can be used for energy. When the system is working properly, it keeps your blood sugar levels balanced and your body running smoothly. But our modern diets can totally break this beautiful system. Let's just walk through this cycle. It all starts when we eat a lot of high carb processed food, which just floods our bodies with glucose. Then our pancreas goes into overdrive, pumping out more and more insulin to deal with it. But over time, our cells just get exhausted. They stop listening to the insulin signal. This is what's called insulin resistance. And with the cells basically locked shut, all that extra glucose has nowhere to go. So, what does the body do? It stores it as fat. Right. So, here's the most important takeaway. Imagine the locks on your cells are getting all rusty from being used too much. The insulin key just can't turn them anymore. And that means the energy is locked out of your cells, leaving you feeling tired and craving even more food while your body is busy storing more and more fat. That, in a nutshell, is insulin resistance. So, why are we advocating lifestyle changes? As we've already discussed, many of these problems stem from our food choices, sedentary lifestyles, and stress. Let's think about an analogy. If you have a leaking tap, what makes sense? Getting more mops to clean up the water, installing extra drains to carry it away, or fixing the leaking tap itself? If we don't address our lifestyle, it's like ignoring the leaking tap and simply trying to remove the extra glucose from the bloodstream instead of dealing with the root cause of the problem. So, we have pulled this together into a really practical 5-step action plan that you can start using right away. It's a whole body approach that we can remember with a simple acronym: SMART. S is for sleep. Not getting enough can actually increase insulin resistance. M is for mindfulness because stress floods your body with hormones that spike your blood sugar. A is for activity. Moving your body helps your muscles soak up that glucose, which takes the pressure off insulin. R is for real food, which we will cover today. And T is for time restricted eating. Just giving your body a break from digesting food for a few hours can do wonders for your insulin sensitivity. What are the foods that actually are driving this whole process? It's time to unpack the real culprits behind that constant insulin spike. These are sugar, carbohydrate rich fruits, ultra processed foods, vegetable and seed oils. So let's look at table sugar. Table sugar, or sucrose, is half glucose and half fructose. Glucose can be utilized by all cells in our body, while fructose can only be metabolized in the liver. So having a lot of sugar overwhelms the liver. We can become hooked on sugar because it stimulates the brain's pleasure centers. When we eat sugary foods, the brain releases a chemical called dopamine, which makes us feel good. But when the dopamine levels drop, we can feel low or irritable, which leads to cravings for more sugar. This cycle can make us reach for the next sugary snack, even when we are not truly hungry. So, where do you think the sugar in your diet is actually coming from? It can come from obvious sources like the table sugar, sweets, cakes, biscuits, and processed snacks. But it also comes from a high carbohydrate diet, especially foods like bread, rice, pasta, breakfast cereals, pastries. So these foods quickly break down into glucose in the body, which means they can raise the blood sugar in a similar way to eating sugar itself. Now, you may have heard that there are three main types of macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And each of these affects the body differently. And just look at how insulin responds to each one. Carbohydrates cause the highest release of insulin because they are quickly broken down into glucose, which raises blood sugar levels. Protein also triggers insulin, but to a moderate degree. Fat, on the other hand, causes very little insulin release. To help illustrate the points from the previous slides, take a look at this sugar infographic. It highlights how some of the biggest contributors to blood sugar spikes in our diet are white rice and foods made from wheat flour. Now, look at this slide, which compares vegetables like potatoes with green peas and cabbage, and fruits like bananas with strawberries, to show how their effect on blood sugar can differ. And notice raisins, often found in fruits and nut mixes, because once fruit is dried, the sugar becomes concentrated, making it much higher in sugar than you might expect. Now look at the sugar content in chocolate. Milk chocolate has much more sugar, while darker chocolate has less. The darker it is, the better. The previous sugar infographics were created by Dr. Anwin and are available in different languages on Public Health Collaboration website, which is free to access. And you can scan this QR code if you want to have another look at these. When it comes to fruit, it's better to eat it rather than drink it. Whole fruits contain natural sugars, but they also provide fiber, vitamin, and minerals. And the fiber helps slow down the sugar absorption. Fruit juices, on the other hand, remove much of the fiber and can raise blood sugar more quickly. So whole fruits are a healthier choice as part of a balanced diet. Now let's look at some sugar alternatives. Sugar alternatives such as brown sugar, honey, maple syrup, jaggery, dates, and even most artificial sweeteners can still affect the body. So they should be used mindfully and kept to a minimum. Food manufacturers often use different names for sugar and its substitutes, such as glucose syrup, fructose, sucrose, or corn syrup, which can make it harder to spot on ingredient lists and may make products seem healthier than they really are. Now let's look at ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs for short, are foods that have been heavily processed. They often contain additives and preservatives, are typically packaged in plastic, and include ingredients that you would not usually find in a home kitchen. These are some examples of UPFs that are commonly found in our everyday lives. So let's just be clear on what that means. Ultra-processed foods are basically industrial formulations. The easiest way to spot them, they're full of ingredients you wouldn't find in a regular kitchen. They're designed for super long shelf life and for something called hyperpalatability, which is a way of saying they're scientifically engineered to be so addictive you can't stop eating them. What they're not designed for is your health. But here's the good news. There's an antidote to all this. If UPFs are the problem, the solution is actually wonderfully, beautifully simple. It's real food. They have no chemicals, no artificial additives. They haven't been processed. They usually don't come packaged in a box. And they don't have energy labels. If you can see it and you can recognize it as food, it is real food. Now let's look at some of the macronutrients in our diet. The first one is protein. So prioritizing protein is important because it helps you feel full for longer, supports muscle health, and plays a key role in body's repair processes. Common sources of protein in a non-vegetarian diet include meat, fish, seafood, eggs, and dairy products. Here are some protein-rich foods that can be included in a vegetarian diet. Seeds can be a good source of protein as well as omega-3, which is a healthy type of fatty acid that supports heart and brain health. The recommended protein intake for adults is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. For example, a person weighing 80 kilograms would need around 64 grams of protein each day. The second macronutrient, carbohydrates. So carbohydrates can be good, such as those found in vegetables and whole grains. They can be bad, like the ones found in refined flour, or ugly, which refers to the refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Whole grains. So when you are eating whole grains, portion size still matters. It's also helpful to balance your carbohydrates by pairing them with protein and healthy fats to reduce blood sugar spikes and keep you feeling fuller for longer. Eating a rainbow of vegetables provides a wide range of phytonutrients that support overall health. The fiber in vegetables nourishes the gut microbiome, which plays an important role in reducing inflammation, strengthening immunity, supporting mood, and helping the body absorb and use vitamins effectively. Aim for about 30 grams of fiber per day from sources such as beans, greens, berries, whole grains, seeds, and nuts. Now, the third macronutrient is fat. Fat is essential for many important functions in the body. All our cell membranes are made from lipids. Many key hormones are produced from cholesterol, and the brain itself is largely made of fat. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, which means we need fat in our diet to absorb them properly. Now, examples of healthy fats include ghee, butter, coconut oil, avocado, extra virgin olive oil, double cream, Greek yogurt, whole milk, eggs, and cheese. When it comes to fats, the portion size still matters. It's also advisable to avoid deep frying and repeatedly reheating oils, as this can alter their structure and make them harmful to health. So here's a simple list of what to try and avoid. The really big ones are the UPFs, the refined carbs, and all those sugary drinks. And notice that constant snacking is on the list. Just giving your insulin levels a chance to come down between meals is an incredibly powerful tool. And here's the fun part: what to focus on doing. Prioritize protein and a whole rainbow of vegetables. Simple habits like a quick 20-minute walk after a meal can do amazing things for your blood sugar. And maybe the most important habit of all, get used to reading ingredient labels. If you can't pronounce it or recognize it, chances are your body won't either. So, as we wrap up here, I think it's so important to remember this. Real lasting change, it just takes time. These health issues didn't happen overnight, and they're not going to be fixed overnight either. So be patient with yourself, be consistent. This is a journey and not a sprint. So we end on this crucial final point. Knowledge is great, but it's only powerful when you actually use it. We've talked about everything from insulin resistance to the incredible power of real food. The only real question left is what your first step is going to be. Thank you.